Hey guys, it's Swigs. Today we're going to be talking about a specialist enemy that tends to haunt a lot of new players, the Poxburster. With the ever-clever strategy of walk forward and die, these clumsy, barely sentient walking IEDs are notorious for shrugging off attacks and diving directly into the group in a violent blast of putrid shrapnel. And as dumb as they are, this strategy works out more or less for them, leaving us to figure out the best way of dealing with these red barrel wannabes. So, let's jump into our pimple popper guide and learn how to bully the bursters. First off, the basics. Poxbursters are specialist enemies with an infected armor modifier, and despite how alluring shooting the explosive on their back is, their true weak point still lies on their head. Fortunately, as annoying as they are also the easiest enemy to see coming, thanks to the incessant ticking noise associated with them.
Kind of
Not only is
catchy.
this ticking easy to hear over the sounds of general war and chaos on the battlefield, or most of the times that is, but the ticking will also climb in intensity based on their horizontal distance to the nearest player. This can be a bit confusing on multi-level maps where the burster is on another floor, but a good ear can still leverage the peaks and valleys of the sound as they waddle up the stairwell, meaning it's still possible to intuit their general location to some degree when you get used to it. But once you actually see the thing, it's really a decision between either shooting or pushing them down. So, to shoot them down, the name of the game is to kill them before they get into melee range with any of your team. And keep in mind that they have a very strong AoE range, not to mention team members may be actively sprinting at them to engage with them in pushes instead, which we will cover in the next section. But just make sure to look both ways before you commit enough bullets to burst their bubble, since no one wants to be in the splash zone for that one. But Poxbursters have a fairly high stagger resistance and a health pool to match, so shooting them down needs to be done with a weapon that is powerful and quick to make sure that they don't just shrug off enough of it before it's too dangerous to keep shooting at them. After all, a Poxburster is dangerous on its own, but one that is a hair's trigger from exploding from previous wounds is only that much more dangerous to anyone around it. So, in lieu of our pew-pew, we can instead just push the stupid things right over. While they have a decent degree of stagger resistance, during their dive attack they are extremely vulnerable, letting any player with any melee weapon send them right back to the ground with a simple block push. This vulnerability window is easily spotted using the fuse on their back as a guideline, and once that fuse is lit, you are clear to push. And the push itself is incredibly forgiving, with direct contact not required in the slightest to connect them to the move's mighty aura. Now, while the distance gained from this pushback alone is usually enough, in groups of Poxbursters where the blast may be wider than normal due to their spread, or in an event where the burster clips a bench and fails to be pushed back far enough, a backward slide dodge will help gain additional distance between you and the future crater, while usually preventing any sneaky splash damage from being able to melt your skin off. And please ensure that the direction you push them in is away from other players. Not only is this rude in and of itself, but they may also take the opportunity for some poetic justice and send the burster back to center with a push of their own. But why let our melee weapons steal all the glory with their fancy schmancy block pushes? Since their stagger resistance is so heavily discounted during their dive, really anything that staggers well enough will get the job done, and we have plenty of tools in the toy box to get this done. Not to mention, some of these can extend beyond the range of our usual block push effect, making tackling groups of awkwardly spaced bursters much easier to manage. A small disclaimer though, as some of the alternative methods can cause damage and naturally can be enough to set off a Poxburster, especially a wounded one. Because of this, use any technique that does damage with either a strong sense of confidence that it is safe to do so and you know the weapon's strength, or equally strong sense of desperation and that it's worth to do so regardless of the risk. Regardless, let's go over our alternative burster poppers. Surprisingly, the bolter is very good at sending them back without causing them to immediately explode. That paired with its high cleave makes it really good at pushing groups of them back even through a small crowd. Just try to make sure that they are more or less full health to avoid any unsightly accidents, of course. And just a bit more subtle, the Shredder Auto Pistol also does a phenomenal job making space, and similarly can cleave through enemies enough to make sure that stacked up bursters aren't able to sneak one through the line and that they are all appropriately swept away. Meanwhile, any of the shotguns can do the job incredibly well as well, especially when using either the Cantrell or Lawbringer special shell, with the Cants offering literal infinite cleave, and the Lawbringers boasting a higher stagger and a still sizable cleave bump in its closed line of pellets. While many autoguns are cursed to impotently pepper their infected hides to no staggering effect, the Agrippine braced autogun manages to be strong enough to push them back in force, and similar to the Shredder, will pierce through enemies to get the job done too. And we didn't forget the classics, with either the Flamer or the Pergata Staff's primary fire able to stagger them easily before going back to spewing flames wildly over the arena. And to add to our choice of staves, the Surge Staff is cracked against Poxbursters, killing them off at range easily while also being an excellent bouncer and keeping them outside of the melee. And don't call me crazy, but even the Plasma Gun can push bursters back incredibly well without always killing them point blank. Just do yourself a favor and don't charge it before shooting it. Now don't feel left out, Ogrins, because your weapons can do it too. Either the Heavy Stubber or the Ripper Gun can quickly erect a wall of bullets to repel any incoming Poxbursters wanting a piece from one of our slabby boys. But of course we have to consider our reject special talents as well. The Zealot's Course is especially great since you get multiple pings of high stagger, but the Veteran's Voice of Command, Ogren's Oil Protector, and Psyker's Venting Shriek are all great choices as well and let you harness the power of screaming to keep the enemies at bay. Meanwhile, the Sliker has more up their sleeve, and they can yield either their Smite or Telekine Shield to great effect. The Smite is pretty self-explanatory, of course, since our grape-flavored lightning is going to send those bursters packing easily. As for our Telekine Shield, we'll need to upgrade it first with Innervating Threshold, but with that equipped, it'll make a solid wall between you and those wretched pus bags, and can be pre-placed or flashed in a moment's notice to give them a chest bump back. But now that we've covered those alternative techniques, now for some leftover trivia you can use out there in the field. Poxbursters can damage other heretics as well as trigger other Poxburster explosions. And since Poxbursters are extra vulnerable to explosive damage with a 30 times multiplier to all incoming explosive damage, they're incredibly easy to trigger against their own. This makes them excellent early targets when they are deep in a horde, allowing you to clear any number of grouped up boom boys, while also taking out any brave heretics that were willing to charge next to an walking Acme explosive. Also, Poxbursters have a very short fuse when it comes to minor inconveniences and will prematurely detonate if they spawn in an arena that isn't super accessible for a person whose arms are stapled to a giant bomb. Because of this, stay clear if you see a Poxburster about to encounter a chain link fence, as they won't handle it particularly well. And that's about it, so go out there and purge, rejects. And a special thanks to the anonymous kind stranger for the super thanks from the last Psyker build video. I'm glad you liked it and really appreciate your support. If you liked the video, drop a like, comment if I missed anything, have a great day. See ya!